and welcome. Today we're going to have to review what I discussed last time around the diagnostics, understanding that you may be concerned that you have every illness, disease, condition that we have ever created. And you also have all the ones that we haven't. So part of why it's important for me to have oriented you towards my work, which is probably what most of this will be about, is because it starts to deconstruct how we have been gaslit into a social dynamic that offers us safety in numbers, but not necessarily safety in individual situations. And namely that where science is at least psychological and I would say medical science with dissociation, is that it is a confirmed factual experience that often has difficulty being understood by, I would say, less developed minds, meaning morally developed, spiritually developed, and even in cognitive development. And mainly that there is a split between the cognitive and the emotional, and emotional logic and cognitive logic don't always add up. And so 1 plus 1 equaling 3 is the emotional. 1 plus 1 equaling 2 is the cognitive, where there are fixed numbers. And then there is the emotional, where there are no numbers. There is music. There is process. There is an understanding of an experience and the truth that can be mined from it. And I would say that there is the ability to have a certain truth amplified. And in that we find intentions and we find opinions and different conflict in lived experience. In the lived experience that I am discussing from a qualitative standpoint is one that I think people have to come to understand and have the ability to imagine beyond their selves. And imagining is the first step. Being able to see what is not there, to know what cannot be known, to be and be doing at the same time. The multifaceted layers to us as a result of our dissociation is what produces our abilities. And so, in receiving a diagnostic, you may be putting a lot of weight on the system that it comes from for them to be able to identify what is going on. But the reality is that these definitions have changed. And my main example is around PTSD, namely that it was an abnormal response to an abnormal event. And then that was overturned 15 years later to see that trauma was a normal event and that there were normal physiological responses that were normal that really cannot be stopped. They are going to happen. Healing is going to happen. And if it doesn't, we die. The importance of our healing process is critical to our survival and health. If healing wasn't happening, we wouldn't be here. If people's wisdom and knowledge of healing was not preserved in importance, and taking care of ourselves as a form of healing is our responsibility as citizens and people. And to be taking care of ourselves psychologically means to be taking care of ourselves physically, and vice versa, because these things are one. And one of the mainstays about my work, as far as foundational, tangible, scientific realities that I am connecting, that the drug naltrexone, which helps lower our dissociative features and barriers, using the opioid system. So it's pretty popularly known that Narcan, naltrexone, these things are the same derivative, and they are an opiate blocker. Vivitrol is another form of it. And the way that it does is that it blocks the opioid receptors, because our dissociative system utilizes the opioid, the organic, endogenous opioid system, and also the cannabinoid system is also a part of that process. The cortisol, stress hormone, is also a part of it. Ironically, it is less in active PTSD, cortisol. And then the opioid system is at play, which may be correlated and connected. But when we add a blocker to it, people tend to not to dissociate as much. This is similarly grounding with people. Utilizing grounding and being present in our body. This is another way of, doing what naltrexone is doing. Okay. And naltrexone is being used for, this is the transdiagnostic part of this. It's being used for, I think I had an article that was about bipolar, but definitely borderline personality, eating disorders, food, OCD, and if Gabor Mate's observation that it is emotional dissociation, then that would be valid for ADD. So again, the transdiagnostic observation needs to be validated. So the nice thing is that we actually have some tangible solutions for dissociation. However, you have to be ready and or feel prepared to take on that task, because it means being put into your body, and this is what psychedelics are doing. Psychedelics and or therapies are generally going to, the ones that are effective, are going to be putting you into your body and helping you manage your stuff. The real question that I have is why change? Why activate healing? Because in order to heal, you have to break. You have to need something to repair. You have to unsettle the memory, that system that you want to work on. So imagine that you come across a relic of a library. You go to your childhood bedroom or situation, and you today and your younger you start to set out on healing the family system that you come from, cleaning your bedroom, teaching that child how to be an adult, or how to grow up, how to take care of their stuff. And kids are in direct opposition to that. It is not their time to be doing that. And the dissociative feature opens up the idea of math being different. Meaning if you are 35 years old and your 5-year-old inner child would be 30 years old. And as a implicit process and or awareness, the answer to 1 + 1 = 3 is that there is a mother, father, and baby. There is process. One plus one equaling 2 is also true. But it doesn't add up in the real world. The real world, our 5-year-old inner child is still here, as much as people would like to deny it. I am arguing that people are addicted to the denial because it doesn't serve them to motivate them to be perfectionistic or to be altruistic or to be ambitious. These are the diagnostics that we don't have, although we live in threat of them, individually or societally. And so, because dissociation is predicated upon stress and previous unresolved trauma, healing unresolved trauma becomes the individual's responsibility. And what I have seen as a clinician and having bought training after training after training and come to an understanding that there isn't a full conceptualization of mental health without the understanding of addiction. And if you are playing with the opioid system, organic to the body, and the blocking of it in order to help people become more in their body, and that the body is the unconscious, and the body is a series of experiences that are a collection of memories, because memories physically become a part of us. Somatic body healing is the psychological work because the body is the unconscious. You are your story, and you are sitting in front of me, telling me me that you need help with organizing a library in your childhood because it's creating symptoms today that you do not know where they're coming from, why they're happening, and you just want them to stop. Unfortunately, just getting them to stop is what medication does. Working with medicine and the healer is different because we work with the medicine to teach us what it is that we are not able to see, what we are not able to feel, to fill in the gaps that the relationship that has been soured by the industrialization of psychology and the medical models' influence on psychology. We are no longer psychologically able to meet those needs within the confines of ethics being equated to law. In the context in which we define dissociation, even from a legal and ethical standpoint, becomes contentious when certain realities of dissociation are true. There is a lack of control. There are outside influences. But given reenactments, which is an important part of understanding psychology and not really honored, I would say, in a lot of ways in the literature, the gravity of that feature. So you have to understand who you are receiving a diagnosis from. You are not able to receive a diagnosis from me for various different reasons. However, I can tell you the history of the diagnosis. And when we look at a normal response to normal events, we don't get pathology. We get pathology because people are not able to heal from unspoken events perpetrated by usually caregivers or situations in which a child would expect a parent to play a certain role in protection or has a childhood imaginary belief that they could have or should have. And doesn't mean that that's unreasonable. It just means it may not have been physically practical or possible. So the path is long with such a condition, or at least historically it has been. Some of the advancements in therapeutics and healing efforts have been there and active in people's lives for a very long time. And so we have to respect that it was already existing. It has been compromised and invalidated by a more scientific model of which has been wrong time and time and time again. And their policies have been based on what's been wrong time and time again because there are industries that are associated with it that need profit in order to continue. For example, insurances. The only reason why people need diagnoses in a practical day-to-day life is for billing. And we also needed to communicate between therapists and systems. And we have, you know, opinions about things, because there are opinions out there of what diagnosis and dissociative disorders are. And the fact is that the dissociative features that are predicated on the opioid system is a part of the treatment. Getting away from pain. The problem is it's in the literature, and a foundational citation in my research around being addicted to the drama. And the importance of understanding addiction as transdiagnostic. And if addiction has a positive and negative, and dissociation has a positive and negative, and trauma has a positive and negative, it's all a matter of perspective to the observer. Then them being transdiagnostic and normal means that we do not have to bill for them. And if they are predicated on developmental trauma and attachment trauma, of which are societal and cultural and may have been, again, influenced by the industrialization and the modernization of society and all the advancements in technology and in science. And, as an example, the introduction of baby formula into our world, a hack to get around having to account for people's states of inabilities, the physical body at times, or if mom's not there. Historically, the reasons why, other mothers would give their milk to other babies, or that women's bodies would create enough milk based on the need, and be like wet nurses and such. And then, that job basically went away when they created formula. What also went away was the physical contact, the passing of nutrients and antibodies. This modernization can account for a lot of the developmental and attachment type of traumas that inherently are not agreed upon as to how much this would affect people. But given the rates of dissociation and addiction and trauma that I have, or that I see it being the norm, all of them being the norm. So how can we be billing and charging for things that are normal and that are not diagnoses? So understanding diagnostics and the overlap in the transdiagnostic nature of our primary condition, which is stress, and the stress that we get from needing relief from the stress. It's important to make sure that you're signing up for something that has the most accurate definitions, that has the ability to make sense of it all. being grounded in our understanding and, a hard truth with diagnostics is that it makes sense to label things until you start to qualify for it, and that there are treatments for it. And in order to get rid of it, you have to do the treatments. And this need to quantify instead of qualify our human experience and validate it and experience our way out of our pain into our healing centers to activate what is our, number one ally, our ability to repair and heal and recover, forgive, compassion, love. Our ability to understand healing and what we are signing up for when we are engaging with healing. Being very crystal clear about what the problem is. You're asking me to label you something that you've already labeled yourself. If you can hear your story. In America, I've heard your story. And I see your actions. I also see your non-actions. I see all layers of you, all reasonings and rationalities of why you became what you did. I can see the good, I can see the bad, and I can see the ugly. As if these labels were fixed. In my mind, it's about process. Where you are in the learning curve of life. What developmental stages have you missed? What traumas remain unhealed? What are you going to do with your healing? What can be done with it? And so really providing a differential diagnosis means to give you the differentials between what is they are labeling as diagnostically relevant and what is true in our lived experience. 1 plus 1 can equal 2. It definitely equals 3 though. Because as you sit in front of me now, America, a product of a parental decision, a innocence born into this world, a seed planted, in the depths of forgotten seeds and lives lived and the soil of our fertileness and our Mother Earth. just talking to you today. I'm talking to every you you've ever been. Do all of you understand the cost of healing? If you want to learn more, continue.